All right, so for number one, it says write all the sets of numbers to which each value belongs. So if I'm thinking about this, there are natural numbers. And natural numbers include 1, 2, 3, and then dot, 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 the ellipsis, saying it goes on forever and ever. All right, but it starts at 1 and it's got to be, it's not a decimal, it's not a fraction. Okay. Then the next set of numbers that they talked about in the section were whole numbers. Whole numbers also include 0. So it's 0, 1, 2, 3, and then it goes on forever and ever. But it doesn't include fractions, decimals, and it definitely doesn't include negative numbers. Okay. The next set of numbers that we talked about in this section were integers. Integers include like -1, like -2, like 0 and 1 and 2, and then it goes on forever and ever in both directions. And so this includes that, but it does not include decimals. It does not include fractions. Then the last type of number we talked about in this section were rational numbers. And so rational numbers include anything that I could write as a fraction of b over a, where a and b are numbers and a is not 0, because we can't have a fraction where the denominator is 0. And so for this question number 1, it's just saying for 1a, it's just saying what kind of number is this? So the tundra covers about 1/5 of the Earth's surface. Well, that's a fraction. So 1/5, the only category it fits into would be a rational number. And then the other thing that we have to remember is if it is a natural number, it's going to be a whole number and an integer and a rational number. If it's a whole number, it'll be a whole number, an integer, and a rational number. If it's an integer, it'll also be a rational number. But this one is just a rational number. Then B, it says the average annual temperature is -18 degrees. So -18, if I look on there, is an integer. And if I think about this, all integers are rational numbers. So I also should have a rational number. Should also be rational for this one as well. So those are the two sets that it fits into. C, it's 48 varieties. So I'm looking at that. 48 is a natural number. It would be a natural number. Therefore, it would be on the list of all of the whole numbers too. Therefore, it would be on the list of all of the integers as well. And then all natural numbers are rational, so it'll also be on the rational list. Okay. If I look at D, the permafrost is a layer of frozen soil that is located below Earth's surface at -1,476 feet. And so that's a negative number, and so that would be an integer. And an integer is also a rational number. And then finally, for E, during the summer months, the low temperature averages about 37.4 degrees Fahrenheit, and that's a decimal, and so a decimal is just going to be able to be expressed as a rational number. You can just write that as a fraction, 37 4/10. All right, and so we just had to classify for number 1 which category or categories each of these particular numbers belonged in. Okay, then Dean collects data about some animals. Determine a rational number between each pair of rational numbers. Plot all 3 numbers on a number line. Okay, so if I'm looking at this one right here, and my first one is a mole's runway is between -3 and -12 inches in the ground. Well, I could pick any number I wanted to, but I need to have something in between. And so something in between would be like -4. So negative would be an acceptable answer, but you could have done anything that fits in between there. It could have a decimal. It could be a fraction as long as it's smaller than -3 and bigger than -12. Okay. B, the musky rat kangaroo weighs between 3/4 and then that would be and 3/2 pounds. All right. And so if I think about this, right in between there would be 1. And so 1 would be an acceptable answer for this question, but it could have been anything that's greater than 3/4 and less than 3/2. Remember that 3/2 is the same as 1.5. Okay. Then, I don't have room. I'll put it up at the top. For C, the percent of change in the Alaskan polar bear population in the past year was between -33 hundredths and -32 hundredths. Okay. And so if I think about this one, this deals exactly with what we're talking about in this section. I could add a 0 to both of these, and that might help me to see that in between both of these would be like -0.325. All right. And something that has a 3, 2, and then another digit, like a 1 or a 2, or I could put any number that fits in between here. And so this could be -0.321. All right. It's got to be smaller than 32 hundredths. It's got to be bigger than 33 hundredths. When they're right next to each other, like a 2 and a 3, I need to add a digit like I did in some of the section today. Okay. That was your exit slip from Wednesday. And so I hope that helps you to cement what you had correct and what you were confused about with exits.